Great, thanks for coming all of you, and especially thank you to all the founders for wanting to share their stories. So I'm Rebecca, I'm an investor at InVenture. We just raised a new fund. We're focusing mainly on seed and we want to invest a lot more into the Baltics. So I'm super excited to be at Latitude. It's been an amazing event so far. Thank you so much to all the volunteers and the organizers. It's been so good.
I'm a specialist VC, also welcome from my side. We are investing in pre-seed and seed to the founders from the Baltics, Finland and Ukraine. And we've been lucky to be part of the quite many success stories coming out of the region, from the region, and we intend to keep looking for the good founders.
What do you look for in founders though?
Actually, in my opinion, three most important traits are passion, conviction and the relentless focus.
Yeah, those are good ones for sure.
And yeah, Rebecca, you had a nice story about actually where you invested basically based almost only, you saw very good example of a passion in founders, and you choose entrepreneurs because of this. Maybe you can a little bit highlight.
Yeah, I'll share this story, and I think it's due to the fact that I want to show how important stories are to connect with investors and how powerful that can be to convey why you wanted to start a company. And this was my most recent investment in my previous fund, and these were founders from India, and they grew up in this village and they had an agricultural family and working in agricultural, and suddenly they could no longer earn money from agriculture due to the textile industry totally polluting all the groundwater. So they're no longer able to use the water at all due to the fashion industry. And this was a trigger for the founders. They all had international careers. They were working in the UK and the US, and actually quit their jobs and decided to start this company to tackle sustainability in fashion. And they now have a very successful company in traceability in fashion called Trust Trace. And that really stuck with me, that first story, that they were genuinely passionate about what they were doing. So yeah, I encourage you all to share why you wanted to build a company. Did you also have a good story from any of the investments you made?
Yes, actually, it's about the same. It's about conviction, and it's about the same. Actually, guy you saw in the stage previously, Kristjan Maruste and his team from Co-Module. 8 years ago, basically, they were four students, and they had developed the electric formula as a part of their student extracurricular project. And then they said that they believe that the future of the small light vehicles will be electrical. And actually, for first 4 years, it was very hard to believe this because there were not really many of these vehicles at all, just a few bikes and nothing else. And the guys kept pushing, and then suddenly 3 years ago, the explosion happened, and now you see everywhere electric scooters and vehicles and bikes, and the guys were right after all.
Yeah, conviction is so important. We're not going to take up more of your time. Now we're super excited to welcome some of the founders that decided to share their stories today. And I encourage you to be true and not just talk about the successes, and also share some of maybe the hardest stuff about running a startup. And I think sometimes we talked a little about failure and the hard things as well, and the learnings we learn. So really looking forward to this. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. So our first founder from Estonia, please welcome the founder of Fyma, Karen Burns.
Hey everyone. Wow, what a cool music to step to the stage to. So my name is Karen. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Fyma. And we help build better places with data. Essentially, we're a computer vision AI SaaS platform, and we work with commercial real estate developers globally. What I want to talk about today, however, is how my road to becoming a founder was very windy. And often when I go and speak to especially girls as part of school talks and so forth, they all worry about, what path should I take to work in this specific field, or what qualifications do you need to become a founder? And my point is that probably none or lots, depending on how you kind of end up building your life and the founder journey. And I've just realized I don't have a clicker, but I have some slides to show you. So I grew up in a little village in the south of Estonia that had all of 8 houses in it. That's me. My dad was a photographer, so there's like tons of pictures like this of me as a kid. And my dream, like many kids growing up in the Soviet Union, was to become an ice cream sales lady. In the very beginning. And I actually founded my very first company in 1993 when I was 7, and it was a school newspaper. So my mom used to work in a bank, and with a little group of my classmates, we would publish a monthly called Our School that was full of crosswords, stories that we'd written, color it yourself pictures, and we would sell it at the school. And at the end of the school year, the entire office would go to McDonald's because that had just freshly arrived in Estonia. So we would go and get a Happy Meal each, basically. So that was the reward. We didn't really get paid much. And my initial passion was actually arts and music. So my very first salary actually came from playing the tenor saxophone in a big band and touring. If you know Kristjan Valdsalu, who are very famous Estonian jazz musicians, these would be the guys I would actually tour with for a few years of my life. And my dream really was to actually work in Hollywood, as you do growing up in Estonia. So I really did have to leave this country to go and be able to do that. And where do you go? You go to the UK, to London. It's the closest place if you don't want to go to the US to study film and TV. So that's what I did. But I really couldn't afford to live in the UK just by being a student, basically. My mom and dad couldn't afford to pay for this. My dad's a bus driver. My mom's worked at a bank as a teller, so they're not like super wealthy. So immediately I landed a job at British Telecom, just completely by accident. And that was my very first kind of route into IT. That was in 2005. And I kind of stayed in that field, the IT field, until 2012 for 7 years. So the UK company trained me in Agile, Prince, ITIL, Scrum. I would do program and project management, procurement. I would even code a little bit. The budget I looked after was £15 million. I also did delivery on a £20 million risk and issue program, and I had 4 staff at the age of 21. So that was really fantastic, and it was thanks to the boss I had, an older gentleman, a school dropout himself, who loves Nordic heavy metal. So he knew Estonia really well. He's actually been here on these Metsadöl gigs. So he was, and he's a Morris dancer. If you know what that is, you can probably put a bit of a picture together. We're still really good mates. He retired recently. But life took me to the Middle East. So still in the back of my head, I had this thing about the movies and the movie business, and I was in film school for 6 years, despite working in IT. And I landed in Dubai in 2012 and decided that this is now when I'm going to really try and work in the film business. And I managed to score a job at the Abu Dhabi Film Commission. And my job was to sell the desert to Hollywood and Bollywood studios. It was me, 2 local Emiratis, and a really horrible American boss who was pro-gun, pro-life. One of the famous quotes was, "Karen, men have to earn more money because historically we have been in the labor market for a longer time." So you can imagine the fantastic atmosphere that particular office had. However, I managed to get in Star Wars 7, Fast Furious 7. I worked on a horror movie. It's a good one, called Deliver Us from Evil. That's actually me on set. And I did it for a year, and I absolutely hated it. It was the worst job ever. I'd rather weed cucumbers than do this. So basically, the hours are minimum 12 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week, working weeks. The longest shift I did actually on that horror movie was 56 hours back to back. Because when we would go to sleep, Los Angeles wakes up and they're like, right, where's the paperwork from set? When was turnover? All that kind of stuff had to be sent directly to the studios. And we were filming in the middle of Ramadan. So basically everybody who had to service and drive was tired, hungry, thirsty, angry. So the scheduling was a little bit insane. So my days would look like this. I'd get up at 6, be at the McDonald's drive-in at 6:20, getting my breakfast. I would drive to the office for 140 kilometers. Then I'd do my 12, 14, 16-hour day. Then I'd drive back to Dubai, and I'd repeat that the next day. And it's just not a sustainable lifestyle. I had a daughter by that point as well, and I only saw her from 2 a.m. till 4 a.m. when she woke up because she knew I'd be home then. So it was just absolutely insane. The burnout, not worth it. So I came back to Estonia right before we were meant to start filming for Star Wars 7. Told the guys that you can, stick it, I'm not coming back. And I stayed in Estonia, basically. I'd only arrived really with a bag because my intention was to drop my daughter off, go back, do the 3-month shoot, and then pick her up after that. And I just never went back. I didn't go back for an entire year. That's how horrible that was. And I started thinking about how to move forward from here. So I'd obviously already worked in IT for 7 years. I had a brilliant network of people from the UK, from the Middle East. I'd lived in South Africa, actually, for a short period as well, in Johannesburg. And I started thinking, okay, so what am I good at? I'm good at gabbing, talking. I'm good at connections. My network is one of my biggest assets. What the world needs. So Estonia needed people in the tech sector. We still need a lot of people to come and work in the tech sector so that our companies could grow. And finally, where is my passion? And that's actually helping companies grow, get them started. And kind of at the intersection of all of those, I started working at an Estonian company called Moongascade. So I'm doing a shout out here to Priit Salumaa, who was the person who hired me. And I was there for 2 years. I helped triple the company's annual revenue in that time. And I realized that, wow, I can actually do this in a tech company with business development, leveraging the international connections that I have and bring value to the country I really love. So that's how I ended up founding Fyma with one of my colleagues from Moongascade, actually. So we left, set the company up, and we've been in business now for 2 years. And that is actually concluding my talk. So open for any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So if you can wrap your head around this whirlwind of a story, wow. Any questions?
Yeah?
Yes, the mic is coming for you.
Hello. Just wanted to say that this has been an absolutely amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm also a founder, so it has been very inspiring to listen to you. My question to you is about how do you manage the team and what are the main values in your company? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have a dispersed team, especially with COVID. It was kind of easy to work from home. I'm a mum, so I get a lot of stuff done actually during the time we're at home. So we just use a co-working space and we bring the team together once a month in person. So whether that's just to have a meal or go to someone's house, do workshopping together. So we made a really strong point about doing this once a month for sure in person so that we can always kind of check in with each other. We did it more often during COVID. We would have well, not in person, but we'd have a weekly Friday afternoon session just kind of connecting with each other. And now that we can meet again in person, we're doing this once per month. The values that we look after within the company, so we hire for values over skills. You can obviously teach things, but not learn an attitude. And it's really around resilience, a can-do thing rather than looking for why not? We'd like, we want to work with people who ask how can we get this sort of thing done? And we want to also hire for inclusivity and diversity. So half the team is female, half the team is male, and I really would like to hire for an age diversity as well. And that's something we've been struggling with because just the field that we're in doesn't allow for the widest variety of candidates in kind of older segment. So I hope that answers your question. Any other questions? Yeah?
Thanks so much. Really inspiring. I was wondering, you mentioned that you're a mom and that you had this burnout moment. Did it result in some, strict work-life balance rules or changes in your life that you implemented, or if you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I actually slept for the first 3 months after arriving in. I didn't do anything. It was really cathartic to be away from that crazy tempo. But I started working with coaches. So I started really kind of seeing the value in having a personal coach to help you grow and kind of keep you a little bit in check about what you're doing and that you wouldn't really break yourself working. So my first coach was a psychiatrist turned coach. So she wanted to start preventing people from coming into her practice for meds. So her whole point was, let's kind of, stem this before it gets really bad. And she was brilliant. And now I've been working for 1.5 years with a fantastic woman who used to lead the Time Warner Venture Fund. So she's a former operator and a VC, and we check in with each other every 2 weeks. So that sort of kind of process around mentoring where I check for my sleep. I think Latitude Week is an exception, not just for me. I build time each week individually with each of my children. I actually moved in with my mum in the south of Estonia, so I have more focus and less kind of stuff around the household things. So I can kind of focus more on the company and then have really good quality time for me and the kids. And every single month I'm spending a weekend with my friends and doing something that's just for me. So that's something I recommend to all the other founders as well, is you have to do something that's just for you and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
Cool. I think we're out of time.
Yes, we are out of time, unfortunately.
Thank you very much.
But thank you so much. I'll take the clicker. Thank you. So, just a very quick introduction to the next two people who are very special to me. I am lucky enough to call them my two bosses. I'm very interested to hear what they have to say. So let's welcome Merit and Andrus from Single.Earth.
Hello, everybody. I'm Merit. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Single.Earth. And with me, I have on the stage Andrus, who is the second co-founder and the CTO. And to kind of share the founder story, well, it's really hard to pick up where Karen left us. So I didn't actually start from that glamorous industry. So I think my story kind of starts when I was like an 18-year-old thinking of I should go to the university, study something, and then, build my career. So I thought that while studying English would probably be a good start to it. So I did my bachelor's in English, majoring in English. And then when I was looking for the next big step, I thought that, well, I'm just going to do a master's in English majoring as well. So I did that. And when I had the opportunity to decide whether I'm going to become an English teacher, a translator, or just pursue the scientific path, I thought that the scientific one would probably bring me the most opportunities in the world. So I graduated with an English degree from the scientific angle. And then when I left the university, I understood that, well, there is nothing to do with an English degree in master's, unless you want to go back to the university and start working there, which I did not. So I decided that I'm going to look around, and somehow I ended up in the tech sector. So I started off as a tech writer. Then I also worked at some point as a content writer. And then I think the biggest push in my career was when I joined Pipedrive as the localization lead. And that's how I actually entered the startup scene. And I kind of understood the wonderful opportunities that await here. So I think one of the interesting stories, or one of the interesting points in the journey, are when you meet your co-founder. and the other part is like when you come up with the idea. So how did I meet with my co-founder Andrus? Was actually through one of the founders of Pipetry, where I used to work at. But at the time, I had already gone to maternity leave. So I was at home with my child, thinking of like what to do and just being concerned about the environment, climate change, all of that. And then I was chatting with the founder of Pipetry, Ragnar, and he said, well, there's going to be a hackathon called The Future of Food, and you should definitely go there. And I was obviously like, yeah, sounds good, I'm going to go there. And then we were like chatting about some ideas, what to do. And he was like, well, you need a mad scientist to actually pull this off. And this is literally the words that he used to introduce me to Andrus, who is my mad scientist now. And together we are building something that we call the world's first nature-backed currency. The idea part is, I think, very interesting to share. At least for me, it was surprising. Like, I thought that when founders found the companies, they kind of like, they know what's the problem and they wake up and they understand what is the solution. So they start building it, and then they continue building it. But for us, it has been like more than 2 years trying to understand how to solve the problem. We understood that the problem is the super intensive forestry that we have here in Estonia. So our beautiful old growth forests are cut down. And we understood that they're cut down because this is what the nature is monetized for today. It's monetized as raw material. We only pay landowners for cutting down their forests and not for keeping them as they are. So we understood that we have to start creating value for intact forests. So Andrus has his own version of how things proceeded. For me, it was like him saying that we need to start from blockchain because this will provide us with a transparent and traceable way of doing that. And then at some point, I think fast forward like 2 years, we were in the middle of the night calling each other, and I was like, well, if we're using the blockchain technology and we want to engage like all the people in the world, why don't we just do a cryptocurrency out of it? And I think that was like in the middle of the night when we were like, hey, this could really work. But it took us 2 years to get to the point because we started from a very, very easy thing or a very simple solution. We have forests, we have companies that probably want to offset their carbon footprint or do some compensations. Why don't we connect those two? But it took us 2 years to understand that the solutions that we need to fight climate change and biodiversity loss are obviously not easy, because if they were easy, they would already be done. And if you look around, you see that nothing is actually working in that direction. So that was kind of the understanding that we had and how we started building the world's first nature-backed currency. And this, I think, is a good place to hand it over to Andrus, who has his own thoughts to share about this.
Thank you. Yes, when I normally do that and Merit is talking and I'm standing very still in a Zoom, then sooner or later somebody is asking, is he frozen? So I'm trying to move around a little bit to show people that I'm not like... but yeah, how many people from this room, I can't see very much there, but how many people from this room were either investors or C-level position or company owners when the .com happened back in 2000, 2001? Raise your hands, please. One. Wow. Okay, for the rest of you, happy Halloween. A couple of things that I thought that I will try to talk about is what we've been learning during this 2.5 years. And in a very nutshell, 4 things. One is that you should probably concentrate on the strengths of your co-founders rather than trying to make it like universally sucking at everything, which means that strength scope is really your friend. Go through the profiling, it's a really useful tool. It'll give you an idea who's doing what, and try to have more than yourself, try to have at least 2 co-founders. Don't get 4, don't get 5, get 1, 2, 3. 2 or 3. So, and that really helps you out. The second thing I've learned is that you should really get at the very early the investors you trust. And you often hear that, I don't want to get investors who are involving too much because it's going to be distracting and they're going to be doing the idea different than we do. No, you need help. Get used to it. And you need all the help you can get, and you especially need to get help from the people who know better than you, because you know a lot about your idea, but you don't know anything about how to make your idea fly if you haven't done it like a couple of times. And no, working for the Skype doesn't qualify. You have to see it, how it's done from the investors' money from the front row seat. So get used to it. The fourth thing is that if you hire the people and you are expected to be growing really fast, so what you're expected of is that hire a lot of people, hire fast. Get somebody like Marilyn. She's not for hire, and she's not going to be ever anymore. No. But get somebody who's able to get this process under control, because you need, in a fast, rapid growth, if you hire randomly, you'll be ending up with something which you'll not be able to manage, because anybody through the job interview, it looks like they're going to join you because you explained it to them and they really like the idea. The fact is, everybody's joining you, especially at the early phase, everybody's joining you for their own reasons. So this expectation management has to be done really carefully. You really have to interview a lot of people, and if there's no process behind, you're basically having everybody who's joining the company working only with the new people at the team, and you can't get anything done. Which leads us to probably the fourth most important thing, is that if you have to go to the hypergrowth phase, start from the management. Start hiring people who have to hire other people, and have to distribute that knowledge and build that culture, because otherwise, once again, you're not going to be able to manage it, which means that you will have a beautiful company in your hands which doesn't do anything, because most of the people are busy chasing each other's tails and nobody's able to figure out. And in order to explain it, you can't underestimate how much you have to do actually that kind of explaining. So we've been trying to structure it like why, what, and how. So 3 levels. Because you can't stress enough how much you have to reiterate on a daily basis to everybody what you're building and why you're building it. But it has to be done on the different words at the different levels. So on the C level, you probably have to explain why we are doing it. So on the middle management level, you have to explain it to the people that what it is what we're building really that helps to achieve those goals there. But engineering level, it's all nice, beautiful words, but they need to know what we're building and how the process is actually going. So the what part is actually the how part is at the bottom of the development cycle, the most important. So all those things.
And I think you missed the fifth one, which is like actually finding a co-founder that you actually have fun building all of this together with. Yeah?
Total stranger.
We were literally strangers.
Been done several companies with the friends, with the people I know. Best company so far with the person we've met first time when we established the company. So don't be afraid of strangers.
Yes.
Works well.
Yes. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, who has questions? Are there any questions here? Maybe I'll start with one. So tokenizing nature, like how does the ups and downs of the crypto markets kind of impact you, even if it's just about perceptions of the viability of kind of blockchain?
Am I going to be honest? I will be honest. So we were planning to start minting the tokens last week. So if you know what happened last week in the crypto markets, you probably understand why we decided to postpone it a bit. But it does affect. I think it's mostly because, not because of the ecosystem being fragile or we being afraid that it goes away. It doesn't go away. It's going to stay here. But I think the trust in assets like this has received some damage. So I think that's the.
But people are talking about how bad it is on the crypto market. I'm not sure I really understand, because when you look at the numbers, then at the peak, the crypto market was somewhere around 3 trillion, the total market cap. Today is somewhere like 1.2 trillion. When we started the company 2.5 years ago, the crypto market was a little bit north of 200 billion. So yes, a lot of people lost a lot of money they've never had. Some people lost some of the money they had who got late to the party. But in general, we are talking about 50% crash on the market, which has a very questionable real-world value in the first place. So I'm sorry for the people who came too late to the party, but I think it's all going to be okay if it stays as it is. That's actually very important to distinguish that, and why I asked about the .com and who's been there. That I think universally the people who you would be asking who saw that are agreeing that if the crisis will stop where it is right now, we're all going to be okay. Yes, there are companies who have real economy, who are bleeding cash. Your investors are probably a little bit nervous. Your investors are probably dividing in two parties. The one which have mostly LP money saying that it's going to be more or less okay. The ones which have investments from the companies who actually are industry, they're bleeding the real cash. So be gentle on them. They're really, really in a bad situation at the moment themselves because they are actually losing cash while the others are just losing value on paper. But if it stops there, you're all going to be having fun in 8 months. If it's not going to stop there, then the people who are now a little bit nervous have all their risks materializing, then it's going to be quite a show. But.
Thank you. And we must have one question from here somewhere. Over here.
Hello. Thank you very much for the presentation in the first place. You mentioned that you are two partners, two founders, and you met as a complete strangers. So the question is, are you equal partners, or there is a majority partner, minority partner, and how is your decision-making process looks like?
No, we are not equal partners.
We're not.
We decided right from the beginning that she's going to be about twice the partner I am. and there was a reason for that, because I'm a professional CTO. I'm never going to have a majority in anywhere, because you have to have that one partner in a company who is sort of stakeholder of all that. And that has to be a person with a huge operational skills. I don't know how you see that, but I saw you as a huge operational skills person since the beginning. and the decision-making process. How many phone calls we have every day?
We talk a lot. We talk a lot. We talk and talk and talk and talk until we end a solution that we come up with a solution that we're both kind of satisfied with. So I think although we don't make decisions based on who has the most shares. We still work as co-founders. We make the decisions in a way that we understand there are things that matter most to him. So he's mostly concerned and focusing on the tech stack. I try to make more of the marketing and business related decisions. So we kind of have divided the world based on that, but occasionally we also tap into each other's worlds and try to make decisions there or co-make the decisions. So I think it has to be a very strong teamwork. I don't think in the world or in the journey of your startup, there's no room for co-founders to fight with each other. They have to collaborate all the time because you have all the rest of the world to fight with. Co-founders have to work as a team.
I say thank you so much. Thank you. And we have one more duo. And Estonia really is a small country because I'm also introducing a boss, a former boss. He was a great boss, by the way. And actually, this isn't just two co-founders, but also two brothers. So really excited to hear from both of them. Please welcome Kristjan Korjus and Kaspar Korjus, founders of Pactum.
Hi, my name is Kaspar.
I'm Kristjan.
And yes, we are brothers. Instead of sharing how we reached here, we're going to share the difficulties of being here. We're going to share clashes with startup theories and kind of clashes with the general opinions of how startups are run and what decisions you need to do during running a startup. And these clashes, they are happening all the time, so we're going to share 9 of those today.
Before we start, a couple of words about Pactum. We were founded about 2.5 years ago. We are working with the largest enterprise in the world, such as Walmart and Maersk. We are doing well. Our revenue is growing 10x a year. We just recently were with 20 employees. Now we have 80 employees. We have raised 15 million of funding and many Estonian angels, such as Jaan Tallinn and Taavet Hindrikus, who have helped us a lot. Kaspar?
And how the product works very quickly is that we set up a contract space with the client, like Walmart, but are tradable terms in negotiation. We choose from existing negotiation theories and negotiation will be sent out to suppliers by the AI. And then once the deal is made, it goes to signing for both parties and we update our client's database. So that our clients don't need to do anything while they wake up soon in America. They just see from our dashboard how much cash was made by the AI bots out there during night. this is the view on the left, basically what you see as a supplier, but our clients see these dashboard views. But that's for that. Clash number 1. When starting, then everyone asked, like, what is the problem you're going to solve? And what we did, we built the solution without knowing what problems we were going to solve. We built a chatbot that can negotiate, and then we put it out there on a website and started finding problems to solve.
When we started, then everyone was considering it a deep tech company because we were doing something that should be impossible for a machine. Negotiations are very human-like and very open-ended. And there was a lot of assumption and asking about core technologies and what are the advanced things we are doing. We didn't fall for this trap. We went live with the first customer a month after founding the company. We hacked it until we were able to do it like that. Of course, now, as we are 2.5 years old, we have a lot of advanced things and they are coming up. We have built our own programming languages and doing everything, many other things, but hack it until you can.
This was for the journalist here, so this is not anymore like that. Clash number 3, common sense. Paul Graham here, famous tweet kind of that if you can start with SMBs, smaller companies, and then you know what features to build, then you will increase the way how you charge them, and basically your revenue streams to show to your investors that you're earning, and they're increasing the earning. What we did was that we thought that if this is going to succeed, it succeeds with the largest companies in the world. So we Googled largest companies in the world. And we got this list, Walmart. We reached out to Walmart, we signed the deal, and we started coming down after that.
Everyone recommended us, especially in Estonia, to be simple with pricing, that we should be a SaaS company where you have monthly fee or user fee. We were in an extremely unique position. We are defining what the company values and we are making commercial deals for them. We know how much money we are making them. We must know because we don't do them. AI is doing it. So we decided that we will try to do a revenue share. The more we earn to them, we take a cut and it should be risk-free for them. If we don't earn anything, they don't pay anything. We are now going live, hopefully on Monday, with first negotiations with revenue share contract, and we are very proud of it.
Yes, it's actually a written mathematical formula in the contract, which I don't understand anything, how we are pricing them. Clash number 5. Common marketing, you find out who are your customers, you're really targeting them, you really understand your personas. We didn't know who are our customers 2.5 years ago. What we did, we went to media saying that this is autonomous negotiations, who would like it? And many people found out that it's very useful for them. And they started figuring out the use cases and the applications of where this is useful. And they brought that to our development.
I've worked in many startups in Estonia, and stock options is a tricky topic. There was a big advice to keep it extremely simple. And we did the opposite. We were extremely transparent. We showed all the last round share prices, exact numbers, exact everything, sending the template while in the process. But we did more. We were sending out multiple offers to every Estonian employees. And this is part of us. We are doing negotiations. We are doing better contracts. So we were sending out the offers that were equal to us. But depending on a person, some of them want cash and want to build a house. Some of them want to invest. They were choosing it. They were happy with it. And it's very cool and still working.
Clash number 7, perhaps one of the biggest ones, is premature scaling, right? Like how much do you grow before you have fixed the problem, fixed the solution, fixed your operations, which are scaling, which your margins, fix everything before you scale. We are 80 people today. Many things are not fixed. And we are okay with that. We take this as an as an increased risk for potential increased reward. What we are going out for our customers, we are co-innovating with them at the beginning, figuring out what are the products. Only then, if it works, we start productizing, we start commercializing, and we start selling, and we build teams around that.
In our company name, there is a Pactum AI. And of course, if you have an AI in your name, then every single investor and journalist asks you about machine learning. We were true to ourselves. We did not start using natural language processing or machine learning because there is AI in our name. What AI means, the most famous AI algorithm is IBM's Deep Blue that won Kasparov in 1997 in chess. There is no machine learning, there is no NLP, it's still considered an AI agent. And AI for Pactum that has served us well means that it is an agent. It talks to you, so you don't kind of doubt in that, and it is achieving better negotiations and contracts than humans, so it's superhuman. That is an AI. And another sentence that now we do have machine learning every day fitted, but that wasn't core of the Pactum.
Final clash number 9. When we started fundraising the very first rounds, then already back then, like investors started asking, like, who are you? In which category is it? Is it chatbot? And everyone started asking, then I was like, okay, let's figure out who we are then. Then it was like chatbot, what if we change the interface? We're not chatbot anymore, right? So, okay, what are we then? Legal tech. Googled what is legal tech. We don't know much about contracts or legal terms. We change numbers and we update the contract and the system, but not like legal tech. And then our first solutions became in procurement. Then we won the winner of the year of procurement. Then we became ProcureTech. And now we are quite fed up of putting us into boxes, and we are saying that nope, we are autonomous negotiations. This is a new category. And many things, of course, if it doesn't work out, then many people can say that I told you so, and we are fine with that. But if it works out, then we know that success is unique, and winners will write the history. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Really cool. You talked a lot about the company and the technology and everything behind it, but how is it working as brothers together in one company?
Yeah, this is, I guess, the third most famous question after the AI and machine learning, and it is a good question. And I am at least it's very like clear for me. Like, startup is a messy business, especially if you're creating a category, and having someone who you trust because of the blood and who you know how they think means that basically Kaspar is the easiest person to work with in Pactum for me.
Yeah.
Nice.
Same here. The only thing he's afraid was like, can we still meet during weekend and play around with our kids? But it seems that we are able to not to speak about business also. But that's of course danger.
Our wives don't think so. But
Any other questions? We still have a minute. Yes, Kari.
So what do you look for when you're hiring new people to your team? Obviously, it's a very exciting business, a new category creation, operating in Europe, in the US. So how do you choose the next ones to join on your journey?
I have a great core team of 3 persons directing to me, so they will choose now, which is great. But how they choose is based on what we value as a company and what we call culture of Pactum. And this culture had to be figured out, and it took time, kind of what we are and what we do. And based on this, so I think it's pretty similar to even many other companies. Here we don't have anything unique to share, I think.
I do maybe, because in engineering we are like more tough. So we are making this matrix of skills we need, and we put the scoring matrix and we rate every person and we take the best one.
Perfect. The time is unfortunately up, but thank you so much, Kaspar and Kristjan. It was a pleasure. Thanks. So, next up, please welcome Joller from Snackable.
There you go. Hi, everybody. How are you guys doing? Excellent. All right. So, tough act to follow, but I try my best. So, this year's conference agenda was actually around purpose, and that got me thinking a little bit. So I thought to myself, I am going to speak a little bit less about my own story and tell you more about just like general observations that I've gathered along my own entrepreneurial journey, and perhaps a little bit differently from what the guys from Pactum were just sharing with you, give you a little bit more kind of broader thoughts around just this general concept of entrepreneurship. So I'm Joller, I'm founder and CEO of Snackable AI. I'll tell you first what we do. So we are also an AI company. So we use machine learning and natural language processing to find important moments in audio-video recordings. And those could be sessions of conferences like this, could be webinars, could be customer interviews, could be team meetings. And the problem with all of that is, of course, that since the pandemic, the amount of audio-video content has grown so significantly. And today, we're drowning this information overload. So we put structure and open up these recordings and enable basically, short bits, important bits to be easily shared with audiences, with teams, and just really reduce the time and amount it takes for you to actually search and find meaningful insights in audio-video content. So my story, I guess, is a bit winding. Born and raised in Estonia. After high school, like many people who don't know what to do with their lives, they go and study law. Took me about a year to figure out this is absolutely, categorically not how I want to spend the rest of my life. And I figured I would go to the US and check out this liberal arts education. Maybe stay for a year, see how it goes. It's been 25 years with a little detours to China and Germany, but I really haven't been back to Estonia since about 4 years ago when I started Snackable and put part of our team here. So I started my career actually as a strategy consultant, work for a little boutique firm called Kaiser Associates out of Washington, D.C. Had a chance to work with some really big tech clients like IBM and media like Sony, and figured out like that's really the industry that I want to be in. I left to do my MBA at Harvard. I was actually apparently the first Estonia-born Estonian to do that, and they kind of pulled up the flag at graduation. It was actually really cool and really meaningful. And then I went into industry. So I became an entrepreneur, actually, before I was an entrepreneur. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So I had a chance to build like some pretty significant new businesses at places like Virgin Mobile and Nokia. And only then did I become an entrepreneur or founder in like the true sense of the word. So Snackable is actually my second company in this content meets AI. And I'll talk a little bit about Scarlett as well. So I guess based on my own experience and just talking about a little bit of the sort of perceived notions is that, the 20-year-old wunderkind Harvard dropout like Mark Zuckerberg is really an exception. If you look at what's the norm, average age of a startup founder, a successful startup, is 45. So people like Eric Yuan, who founded Zoom, and he did that at age 41, after he'd had a long career, successful career at places like Cisco, or Jan Koum, the founder of WhatsApp, who started WhatsApp at age 32 after he'd worked as an engineer for a whole decade at Yahoo. So I think what the lesson here is that unless you have this passion and idea and that kind of like the minute you start like being able to walk and talk, is that you can use industry to really see and like be exposed to and solve a number of real world problems. And you can use that to really refine your craft. You can become an expert and really kind of find the thing that you want to build, like these guys like Eric and Jan and many, many others have done. So, in fact, there are many paths to entrepreneurship. The very kind of obvious one, why we're here on the stage, is that you become a founder, but you can also become a joiner. And that, to me, means that you actually join the founders, especially in the early days of the startup. And these are the people who don't get the glamour and the press coverage, but it's really on the shoulders of these people that like many successful businesses get built. You can be you can be an entrepreneur like I was, meaning you build businesses, launch businesses within an organization. Or you can be an investor. You can invest in tens or hundreds of people's dreams and really build new industries, revolutionize existing ones, and just make this little dent in the universe in a positive way. I'm actually curious, how many people in this audience are founders? Okay. Who are joiners? Okay. Has anybody been an entrepreneur? Launched anything new? Very cool. And who's an investor? Okay, so it's a pretty entrepreneurial crowd here. Unsurprisingly, of course. So again, yeah, so being an entrepreneur is a great way to start. So at Virgin, I had a chance to basically build this kind of one of the first mobile commerce solutions. So Virgin Mobile work with people who are considered underbanked or unbanked. And in the US, it means you can't get credit to even like get a mobile phone plan, or you certainly can't get credit to get a credit card. And so we found a mobile solution to actually open those markets up for people. So it was really great. And the Nokia story is actually a good one. So I was at Nokia after they had bought Navtex. So we had all these mapping assets. And Nokia already did, like, think about like a Google Maps, similar product for smartphones. But we had hundreds of millions of users around the world in places like China, India, Brazil, Indonesia, South Africa, etc. And there was a huge demographic shift happening. Millions and millions of people were moving to cities. And they needed a way to orient themselves. And there was no solution. So I thought, okay, well, let's put the two things together and let's build solutions for these people. So I did, my research, I built my business plan, and I went to pitch my idea in Helsinki in the head office. And I said, let's bring maps to the users in emerging markets. It doesn't matter that the screen of the phone is like this big and there's no GPS. We can do it if we really rethink how to do this. And they said, well, doesn't turn by turn in India mean that you roll down the car window and ask for directions? It's like, I think you should really leave Finland and go and check out what's going on in India. So they said, well, take this little budget and let's see what happens. So I built a team of 0 to 100 people in a year. And we launched the app portfolio of maps, and we had 10 million monthly active users. So it's actually really successful. And I think timing was everything. And it's also a lesson, like, stick to your conviction when your data supports it. And so I think it's also like a really big part of being a founder or being an entrepreneur. Another thing is create responsibly. So in a lot of industries, especially AI, social, you're building a product, but you don't really maybe see the negative externalities that can happen. So talking about social, you have cyberbullying in Twitter. You have fake news in Facebook. In AI, there's a lot of talk about bias, which can create really unwanted consequences for really large parts of the population. So we saw a lot of that actually roll out in front of our eyes with Scarlett. So Scarlett was this new kind of a voice assistant, more like a Alfred from Batman and less like Amazon Alexa. So you could connect it was a mobile app, and you could connect your weather, your calendar, your, joke of the day, your news, all sorts of things. And it would basically synthesize all the information and give you these little contextual briefings. We built a little bit of personality around her. So she would, wake me up in the morning and say, like, good morning, Mari. Today is going to be warmer than yesterday, and your meetings look extremely light today. So a really nice way to kind of get information in a short, synthesized way. And in that mobile app, we had a feedback window. And before we knew, we found that people started sending messages to Scarlett, as if she was a real human. They said, Scarlett, you're the only one who understands me. I'm lonely. I'm glad I have you as, to talk to me. Scarlett, I have suicidal thoughts. What should I do? It's like, it was crazy. So we had to hire a community manager. We had to make it super clear in the app and the communications, like, look, she's not a human. Like, she can't solve your problems. Like, please go and find this information. But it was really just like something we never anticipated would happen. So if you guys have seen the movie Her, when Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with the voice in the phone, that's what we saw happen. It was wild. So you have, as an entrepreneur, real responsibility to stay on top of it. And if you see something like that happen, I think it is the absolute responsibility of the founder, of the entrepreneur, to solve those problems. So lastly, and coming back to the topic of this or the theme of this conference, which is purpose, it's like this notion that money solves everything. Well, it kind of does solve a lot of problems. So if you make revenues, it's way easier to get investment from investors you really want to work with. If you have a lot of investment, you can hire great talent. You can outspend competition in marketing to take market share. But is that going to be the thing that gets you up in the morning? And I think the answer is no. So Steve Jobs said once that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. So I think there's truth to that, a lot of truth to that, but I think it's a little bit of bullshit as well. And the reason I think it's a bit of bullshit is that no matter what you do and how much you love it, you're going to have a shitty day every so often. You're going to have at a time when you're going to have a conflict with your co-founder, or you're going to lose one of your key employees to, they're going to get lured away by Google, who's going to pay them 4 times more. Your competitor makes an unexpected move, something's going to happen. And it's your resilience at the end of the day that's really going to keep you moving forward. And I think the psychological resilience to weather the ups and downs is really the #1 predictor of startup success. So I'd say find your purpose, find what's the little thing, that brings a sparkle in your eye, and it's going to make you get up out of bed every morning because, what is the legacy you're going to want to leave? Okay, thanks.
Questions. Her is a great movie, by the way, but it's very tricky trying to translate that title into Estonian. Her. But who has a question here? Over here at the back. There should be a microphone coming to you from somewhere. Yes. And while it does, I'll ask mine, then we'll come back to you. Latitude59, we've been making and sharing content. Yeah. We haven't used Snackable. If we used it next year, how would it improve the way the conference is managed?
Yeah, so it's going to allow your team, your content teams, to very quickly pool all your sessions, make them deeply searchable, and every session is going to have recommended highlights that you can easily then extract. And you can put them to social, you can use them as previews. If you share any content on demand afterwards, you can use Snackable to instrument it with chapters. So you guys have probably seen on YouTube how if you hover over the playback, you can see the chapters and with titles. So it means that you can scan a piece of content 10 times faster than otherwise. And again, it's the same problem is that, I think these days 50% of people don't attend live events. They do that, live digital events. They do that on demand afterwards. So you can't just throw a 45-minute recording in front of somebody and expect them to listen kind of from front to the end. But if you put chapters in, if you put highlights or snacks into it, then you allow people to scan and just spend the most valuable 5 minutes for themselves.
Thank you. Possibly one more client next year then. So let's go to the question at the back here.
Yeah, thank you very much. My question is around the AI and let's say maybe I'm a CTO at the company, Better Medicine, but more about the engineering culture and the AI building and the AI ethics. Mm-hmm. How do you embed sort of building AI responsibly and processing personal data responsibly, or even the public data, embedding that for the engineers? And maybe you can share about your engineering culture, or like building the technology and embedding the ethics and responsibility that engineers understand that they're also responsible in this. Thanks.
Yeah, I think this is an excellent question. And I think everybody who works with data is exposed to that. So I think you have to set really clear guidelines, and you have to communicate to people very consistently and with sort of clear examples what is allowed and what is not allowed. So for example, what data sets are you allowed to use for your purpose? What data sets? How do you need to clean data sets? What does using open source mean versus using something that's more proprietary? How does that affect your business? So we've done a lot of that, and I think it's sort of empowering people to kind of know where the guardrails are and make decisions, I think is a really good way. The other thing is also just, when you're building AIs, to have the humans in the loop. Because we've been using some of the kind of very kind of latest models like GPT-3, which is, built by OpenAI. It's trained on a gazillion data points. And it's kind of like this magical black box, which is a lot of the problem with AI. Is you have this really powerful model, but you have no idea about how the machinery inside works. And so we used it, and it's brilliant until it's not. So you have to really, that 20%, or it's that percentage is getting smaller and smaller, but the mistakes that can happen on the margin are sometimes worse and worse. So you have to kind of basically build this discipline to do this kind of ongoing, kind of fairly rigorous monitoring of your system and how you build it, and make sure that you are looking out for these types of things.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mari.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, put your hand up if you're in Estonia for the very first time. No, not many. Yes, welcome. We just love to see people coming here again after the pandemic for the first time. And our next guest is one of them. Please welcome Arun Srinivasan, founder of Clarisights.
Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm Arun Srinivasan. Arun, I moved to Berlin in 2020, and we build a no-code BI as a service platform, and we work with companies like Uber, Delivery Hero, World Remits, all of these companies, and we're a very tiny team. Now, what does the platform do? Maybe start with a little bit of that, and then I'll go into more things. Large companies, as you see, they work with large amounts of data, and they don't want to wait for the BI team to answer questions. And these are the companies that we work with, and that's why they use Clarisights. Now, my story, before I get to start with the timeline, this is when we were started, 2018. And then after that, we raised our seed round by Signals, Texas, and Cavalry, moved to Berlin full-time to build, and then had a Series A raised last year by Sequoia Capital. Now, the Indian SaaS story is not new. It's big. Last year, $4.5 billion went into founders, Indian SaaS founders who are building for the world. But our story is a little bit not typical, and I thought I would start with that, maybe start with the personal story and what got us here. When I started in 2018 rather, we were really struggling with product market fit. I'm not a technical founder, I don't write software, I don't write code. And we were building this deep tech company, and we had no idea what to do with it. We initially tried selling to SMB companies in India, we got nowhere with that. Now, the typical Indian SaaS playbook is where you come in, you build a model, sell to SMBs, get your 100, 200 customers first, figure out your mid-market and your enterprise strategy, and then you start going to the US. We didn't go to the US. We actually came here with no connections, no background, and no context. And I think we are the better for it. We are much the better for it, and I thought I would talk about that more. When I first came to Berlin, this was to pitch to Delivery Hero. And at that time, I was thinking that our product is for really small companies. And then the first meeting that I got with Delivery Hero was about this founder coming and telling me that I will never buy your product. I'm just taking this meeting because someone asked me to take it, and I'll never do it. But during that conversation, we realized that they actually did like what we were building, and then they said, but your product has to be built with us. And that's what we did. We came here, I moved very quickly, started building with them. And what I learned with that is it's very interesting working with companies in Europe. It's not like the US, it's not like other markets, because they tell you exactly what they think about you, no filters at all. And if you're an early stage startup, feedback is oxygen. And that's something that we got in plenty. It was very easy to work with. They would tell you what they liked, what they didn't like, and that feedback was super helpful for the team to build the product. The second part, I think, was when as we started building this out, and I finally moved in 2020, there was this phase of time when I was doing enterprise sales. I was the only guy who moved here, and with no sales team. No sales team doing enterprise sales, and then the pandemic hit. And I was wondering if this is actually all going to work out, or this is going to all be a disaster. And this is probably the one takeaway that I'll probably go back to, is founders should sell. It's the most impactful thing that I did for myself and for the startup, because sales has a very short feedback loop. Every meeting you go to, every time you talk to people, you get feedback, and then it makes you better. Even though I had no background in marketing, no background in sales rather, this really helped me figure out what I wanted to do, what feedback can I pass back to the team, and build it with them. And I think what that did finally is that we ended up building a very different SaaS company, because unlike other startups or other SaaS companies who come to Europe and US to scale, we actually came here to build. Sorry, lost my train. I'm done. Is there any questions? I'm sorry.
No worries at all. Thank you.
Sorry, I was going to start with my life story, but just completely lost all of that.
But is there something you want to say about that?
Yeah.
Always a good question.
I started in I grew up in a city I was born in Chennai, and then I moved to a city called Hyderabad, which is where I grew up. And I started working at this online poker company called Party Gaming. That was my first job. And in 2005, I placed the very first ad that went live on Facebook. Worked with Eduardo, worked with Mark a little bit, and that's when, in some sense, I figured out, Facebook figured out monetization and probably helped them with that. Since then, I've been in growth, so not your typical Indian startup founder, don't come with a tech background, don't come with consulting background, and I was doing all kinds of other things. And I had no intention or passion to build a company. I just like to solve problems and be useful. In 2018, after working for an e-commerce company, that's when I felt that there is a need for building in some sense, what Clarisights is today. But, like I said, wasn't going anywhere at all, and this was at a stage where we were probably going to die. Now, when we started, I actually also made this mistake that I hired salespeople before I could sell it myself. And that didn't go well at all, because I had no feedback to give them. I could not help them when they were struggling to get meetings or sell the product. And that's when I kind of realized that, you know what, I need to do this myself. And this is where I think COVID really, really helped us, because the choice was taken out of our hands. There was no money, there was no runway to build anything, so I said, okay, you know what, I don't care if I don't speak German, I don't care if I don't know anything, I will figure out how to do this. And the company got a lot better for it. And lastly, I think we are in Berlin right now, set up a team in Helsinki, in London, etc. And most likely we will be in the US at some point. Now, the thing that I took away from that is, but we are very, very grateful for what Europe did for us, for what Berlin did for us, so this will always be a part of us. And yeah, that was my closing point. If anyone has any questions, happy to take them.
Yes. Are there any?
No? Thank you.
Any upstairs? Okay. Thank you. Sorry. No worries. So, the next performer or founder that will come and tell their story is Triin from Grünfin. Oh, okay.
Hello. So as I was here sitting, I reinvented my speech like 5 times, listening others, and tried to make sure that what I'm saying is useful. But I wanted to start with a story that you may have heard many times. It's a founder story. Like 3 guys walk into a bar, take 3 beers each, and then start discussing what is broken in the world and how we can solve it. And then they take a napkin and start sketching the MVP. I've always wondered, how do you sketch on a napkin, especially like after 3 beers? This is not what happened to me at all. So I had to take loads of time to get confidence, to gain trust in myself, to gain experience in many different things. So like Mari from Snackable said, I was a joiner, I was an entrepreneur, I was an investor before I became an entrepreneur. So I was an early employee of Skype and even earlier in Wise. So I was never really responsible of these companies to succeed. I was never really responsible of these people that we hired were happy or I didn't really feel that in myself. So it was really a relief. I didn't really think how beside my own area, my own team, we have to succeed. And if we were about to fail, nobody would have blamed me. So that is totally different when you're a founder. You're responsible for everything from day one. So how Grünfin started? This is who doesn't know, it's a sustainable investment platform where you can actually invest according to your values. So what I learned from this previous experience, just go through them really, really fast. There were 4 things that I want to take into my company. So one is that the team matters, and hire people that are smarter than you in many things. Because as I describe myself, I'm just above average in very many things, but I'm not really good in anything particular. So I'm just universally okay. But that means that I can also make many things happen without questions asked. I don't ever ask, like, how can we build an office? How can we build a back-end product? How can we build financial systems? Because I can figure it out. I just know that I have to start from somewhere and eat the elephant like bit by bit. So the 4 things that I want to take with from my experience to my company. So the team I already mentioned. When I think about the team, it's the first team that comes to my mind is the A team. You know that, guys? They are super different, but they have the same mission. So if you have that mission and you combine very different people, it becomes more than these individuals combined. So the other thing, what I really want to learn, and especially from Skype early days, was that as a founder, as a leader, you always have to figure out when things start to become us and them. So if the engineering says, those guys in UK, the marketing and sales, they don't know what they're talking about, now we have to figure out how we make this happen, what they did. So it's all bullshit, it's hard. Then these people don't work as a team anymore, and they start blaming each other, and this kind of mission really slows down. So another thing is shit scales. So when you're building a company, you always have something in your corners that you don't want to deal with. Is it the accounting system? Is it some code that is not working? Is it some personnel problem or hiring or whatever? Or a person that is actually doing something bad in your company, but you're just too scared of letting them go. So if you scale, all these things start scaling too. It is so much harder to capture them later. And the 4th thing I wanted to mention is it's your purpose to keep the culture alive, because culture has to scale too. And if you hire managers, leaders, you constantly have to remind them what is the purpose of the company and how they can teach it to people below them or for the peers, and call each other out when we are missing something in the culture. One more thing that got mentioned before was the purpose of what you do. So this is how Grünfin got started. So there was no napkins or beers involved, but we talked with our co-founder, Karin, that what is the thing where we can actually take all of our experience, all of our knowledge, all our resources, and bring something to life that makes the most purpose in lives. So we are both from financial backgrounds. She's from banking and from startups. So naturally, it became like a long story where we discussed and discussed and discussed, and eventually this became super simple, sustainable investment platform where everybody can contribute without extensive knowledge, without too much time, without too much money, to more sustainable future. So when I became a mother, it was so easy to relate to that we all have to do something for the future that is bigger than ourselves. So because what kind of world we want to live? Do we want to just have a huge bank account? Yeah, that's fine too. Takes away many problems. But if the house is burning, we cannot say, yeah, it's fine. And what I see, like the most impact of Grünfin, when I see my children, I'm always contributing the money that we sell their small clothes, we sell some toys that they don't use anymore, or sports equipment, and we put it on there. And this creates a future for my children, for the planet, and for myself that I can be proud of. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And do we have questions? Yes, down here. The microphone's going to come to you.
Hi, thanks. Really nice speech. I'm Anna from Meta Advisory, PR agency, and I would like to know what has been your biggest fuck-up as a founder so far, and what have you learned from it? Thanks.
Biggest fuck-up? So I think it's really difficult question because there are I tend to fuck up every day, and but they are not so big ones that actually drive me off the course. I do believe that all startuppers or all founders, they are really good in theory in many things, but they still don't follow the theory, even though they know it's correct. So if you think about, okay, how do I get the product market fit? I probably will do a lot of mistakes on the way, even though I've read the books and I've heard the stories. So it's always about like how do you take it? Just go on. Tomorrow it will be a better day.
I've got a quick question. So we're seeing a lot of investments at the moment get pulled from a particular dictatorship. Obviously, the war in Ukraine started after you started your company, but you let people invest based on their values. How have you seen demand from users for investing based on human rights and the war? And how do you solve that challenge within your platform?
I'd like to believe that the people who join us or our platform, they always think long term. So at the moment, of course, we're in a place where nobody wants really to be, and everybody gets affected by it, especially financial markets, especially people who have invested. But if you think about in a 10, 15 years perspective, it's just a sales time right now. So you keep continuing like the investing to right things, and I do believe that we will figure it out, and the big trends still remain the same. So the climate change is still there. The equality problems are still there. Health problems are still there. So if you keep investing in those, everything will eventually be fine.
Thank you. And any more questions from the floor? No, maybe I'll just like, what's the most demand then from your users at the moment? What values do they most want to invest in?
Climate change is by far the most popular. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's maybe it, and this also is maybe the most broadly understandable for people that they can relate to. So, but many customers choose all the impact areas that we provide.
Okay, thank you so much,
Thank
Triin.
you.
And our penultimate founder is Kristjan Vilosius from Katana.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, so my name is Kristjan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Katana. And Katana is a business software for manufacturing companies. We work with small and medium-sized manufacturing businesses that make all sorts of cool stuff, from electric bikes to drones to organic cosmetic and so on and so on. And we provide them with business software to run their operations, to run their factories, to run their workshops. And I would like to share my story with you, how I became an entrepreneur. I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but you could say I was a late bloomer, at least when it comes to entrepreneurship. And for the first 12 years of my career, I was working for the dark side, the corporates, throwing a parallel from Star Wars, what Karen started her speech with. And the thing with corporates is that I guess I was good in it. I managed to survive in the corporate bullshit, and I managed to kind of swim upstream in the corporate world. And by the time when I was 30, I was leading an organization as a CEO of more than 1,000 employees. And then my friends walked up to me and they said, look, Kristjan, you made it in life. Great job, great salary, good man. And I was like, yeah, I mean, lots of experience, lots of learnings, lots of mistakes done along the way. I'm very grateful still for the experience, but I didn't feel that I fit in. I was like, I guess I was lacking the same thing that what we're talking about here. I was lacking the sense of purpose. I was also lacking the sense of shared ownership. And I knew that I have to move on. But it's not that easy if you have a nice high-paying salary, corporate job with corporate perks and all that nice things in life, right? So how do you make that step? I mean, in hindsight, I just should have jumped ship like immediately, quit the job as soon as I got the realization that it's not for me, and start doing a startup. But I guess I chickened out in a way a bit. So for some time, I kind of started like, let's kind of learn about it a bit. So started investing in startups with small tickets as an angel. So developed an angel investors portfolio. And but I didn't quite find the thing that really got me so excited. I was still kind of looking what was that one thing I want to focus on. And then I took a step forward. I said, okay, let's start founding businesses, but as a passive co-founder. So I'm not going to take the jump. So I was like, I co-founded Larsen, which is operating 3 buildings of hundreds of rental apartments here in Tallinn, where many startup employees also live. I co-founded Yaga with my life partner, Anna. It's a second-hand clothes platform operating here in Estonia and also in South Africa and India and Kenya. I founded co-founded Klar as a passive co-founder. It's a kind of direct-to-consumer manufacturing play in the home improvement market in the Nordics. And it was like, I got all the insights of how to build a business and how startups scale. I also spent 5 years in the supervisory board of Skeleton, which is hopefully soon to be unicorn, making ultracapacitors. And I got all the insights from these businesses, but I didn't really find a thing that was like my thing that I want to focus on. And then eventually I did. Took quite many years, but I fell in love with the makers, and I fell in love with manufacturing businesses. And the thing with makers is that makers are people that make things that we use in our everyday life, all the products around us. Makers are like, I spent my whole life creating PowerPoints and spreadsheets, and so kind of working with people that do stuff that you can touch with your hand. I've always kind of looked up to them. And makers to me are they're like regular people. They're just way cooler. Makers are people that really contribute to the local community, create jobs in their small businesses. They create really, really cool products. They really love the products that they make. And it's like no corporate bullshit, super nice people to work with. And thanks to direct-to-consumer, we are seeing the kind of small, medium-sized manufacturing company renaissance happening around the world. Walk around in Telliskivi. You see those businesses on every corner. Somebody's making leather backpacks, somebody's making electric bikes, somebody's building drones, somebody has a craft brewery. So I thought that if I could build business software for these type of businesses and really help them scale, then I could kind of, also do a good thing. And so it was 2017, and decided then to finally jump ship and quit my corporate career. And together with two co-founders, Andrus and Preet, we started building Katana's prototype. And 5 years later, we have customers in 80 different countries, most of them in the United States. It's a team of 120 people and growing very rapidly. And more than 1,000 factories and workshops using Katana as their main business software, their main ERP system. I'm immensely proud of what we achieved. I'm very humbled, and really great to work with the team that we have in Katana. And I'm super happy that I finally took that step. And now I think that I found this balance in life, between family, work, and hobbies. I think that I was put on this planet to just, eat berries and swim in the ocean, or in my case, it's surfing. But that doesn't give you the purpose in life. But working with this amazing team in Katana, spending time with my kids, and then occasionally eating berries and surfing in the ocean as well, I no longer have the nagging feeling that I had, that, I don't belong here, this is not my thing. So I think I found it. And I guess if there's anyone here, working in a corporate, or anyone here working in a startup where they feel they actually want to be the entrepreneur and they want to be the founder, then I would say just, do it, jump ship, go. It will definitely work out. Well, statistically you will fail, but you will not regret it for sure. So thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Yes, I can take that. Are there any questions for Kristjan?
Yes.
Oh.
Hey, Kristjan, thank
Hey.
you.
You're welcome.
So you do many angel tickets as well. So what you look into founders as a late bloomer yourself? So.
I have to be honest. I've been investing mostly in areas where I'm a founder myself. So I've been preferring SaaS products and marketplaces, and the reason for it is whenever you invest in a company, you always learn about something for your own business. You see how they are managing or solving the same problems that you have in your business. You get those insights by listening to their pitches, to analyzing the documents, to going through their business model. So I guess this angel investing for me has become like a very expensive university kind of a thing. That I probably lost a lot of money in angel investing. I've earned some as well, of course, but I do it mostly for the learnings. So I'm always looking for exciting stuff that has somehow connection to the businesses that I built and the businesses that I run, and with hope to learn from them. Anything else?
I actually have a question. Oh, no, I'll take the audience question first.
What feedback do you get from the clients, especially when you see their eyes?
The feedback on Katana. Just take a step back. How many of you know what an ERP is? A few. Okay, ERP is a business software that is, used by, let's say, manufacturing business to manage the entire inventory, all their purchasing of materials, manufacturing, planning, order fulfillment, really boring stuff. And some of the largest ERPs in the world, SAP, second most valuable company in Germany. Have you ever heard about them? Oracle NetSuite. Does it ring a bell? What they share in common is that there's very little customer love. Or to put it simply, you wouldn't recommend it to a friend if you're a user, or you literally hate it. Most of the customers do. And what we try to build in Katana, we're trying to build an ERP system for manufacturers that the manufacturers love as much as they love the products that they make. So it's all about customer love. We put very, very much focus on it. And of course, you can't win them all. You can't please every customer. But I think the best one I had was when I think it was an organic cosmetics company in the States that's selling on Shopify, and they have their own workshop where they mix the products together. And they implemented Katana, and then they sent us a video where there were like 6 ladies around the table all jumping because they were so happy that now it works. So it's really cool to see people actually get super excited about inventory management, which is not something that people usually get excited about. But that's what I do. And ERPs are like, for every larger business, I mean, ERPs are like death and taxes. You can't avoid them. If you're a bigger business, you need an ERP system to manage your operations. So we are building something that is basically like death and taxes.
So one last quick question. Is there anything during your founder journey from the corporates to today, is there anything you wanted to do differently or you would change?
Yeah, I guess I should have jumped the ship earlier. I guess that's the only thing. Yeah. Because now it's like I'm on the stage and my back hurts. And if I would be here like 5 years ago, then probably my back wouldn't have hurt that much. So I think that's the only thing. Other than that, it's been a brilliant journey. And I'm very grateful that I've got this experience.
Thank you so much, Kristjan.
Thanks, guys.
So now to our last founder story today. Anna-Liisa from Woola. The clicker is here. Good luck.
Hi. So I think I'm supposed to tell you how to become a founder or how I became a founder myself, but the thing is I don't know. So since I can't really tell you like anything educational, I'm just going to explain my story. So I grew up in a place called Värska, and it's a village. And as you can see, it's quite far from Tallinn. So I didn't have a lot of choices with what to do with my free time. And that's actually why I started my first company. So it was a student company I started when I was 16. We made handmade wallets. And I made this logo myself in Microsoft Word, so it's still quite cringy to look at. But this company inspired me to start my next business, which was an outdoor film festival. And that one was actually quite successful. We had people jumping the fences to get in, so I was very proud of that. And this was our budget, so the level of professionalism was very high there. But after this, I was like, this business thing is pretty cool. So I decided to go to business school. And I picked Rotterdam Business School in the Netherlands. And I had really high hopes for it. I thought I'm going to learn about finance and marketing. But what really happened was this. So I didn't learn almost anything about business from business school. But I did learn that living in the Netherlands is very expensive. So despite what this super out of context picture shows, I really needed money. So I had to get a job, but I couldn't find a job because I didn't speak Dutch. So I had to start my own company. And I started two. So business A was importing natural cosmetics and selling them online. And business B was selling power banks, which was a cool thing back then. So with this first business, I kind of went all in. I did a lot of planning, and I invested my money into it. I set up some ads, built a website, did all of this stuff. And then I was like, okay, now I'm ready to launch. And throughout the lifetime of this company, we made a revenue of around 11 euros. So there was obviously one thing I did really wrong. I should have launched straight away and started talking to customers and trying to sell the product, and then everything else was trivial. So I think this is, to this day, one of the most important lessons of my life when I learned this definition of validation. So actually trying something out before believing that it's true. And at this time I was still in school, and I was required to do an internship. And I really wanted to move to Brazil, so I went to Rio. And life in Brazil was like a crash course on problem solving. So I accidentally lived in a favela for a month because I accidentally booked an apartment there. I didn't know it was in a favela, and these kinds of things really taught me how to be okay with chaos. And then another thing that I learned from Brazil was communication. So nobody in my company spoke English, so they Google translated everything they said to me. And like my name is Anna-Liisa, right? So they also Google translated my name. And these kinds of things were like really great lessons on how to get past like communication barriers. And then as part of my studies, I had to do 1 semester in French. So I moved to Nice and I went to EDEC Business School. It was fully in French, but the problem was that I didn't speak French. So I was kind of like this guy for a while. So for the first few weeks of school, I really like didn't understand anything that was happening around me. And again, super, super great lesson on like how to deal with chaos. And then like I was graduating from my bachelor's and I had to write a thesis and I needed a thesis company for it. And I found a job ad in Mumbai. So I moved to India and my job was to be a management consultant, which was funny because I didn't know anything about consulting and I definitely didn't know anything about management. But after a year in India, I got back to Estonia, and I obviously needed to get a job. So I applied to work at Pipedrive, Bolt, and Veriff. And I didn't get interviews in any of these companies. But this story has like kind of a happy ending because now the founders of all of these companies are investors at Woola. But still, like for 6 months, I was unemployed, and then finally I got a job at PwC. As a management consultant again. Like, I don't know why that's funny, but okay. So I worked there for like some months and I realized that like I really don't like it. It wasn't for me because I didn't see the impact that my work was having. So I quit after a year and I had like no plan what to do with my life. So I bought a one-way ticket to Colombia. And I thought I'm going to be there for like, 2 weeks or something. But I ended up like traveling around the world for 3 months. And then when I got back to Estonia, I was like, okay, like I'm willing to do everything as long as I don't have to get a job. So my goal was to start a company that makes enough money so that I can buy food and pay rent. And then my co-founder, Yevgeny, who I met at a previous startup, and myself, we started coming up with a lot of ideas. We burned through probably like 20 ideas and then made companies from like 4 or 5 of these. So we wanted to build moving sidewalks that would replace public transport. We wanted to make a dumpling vending machine, all of this stuff. And we were trying so hard to get into this Estonian mafia, but we couldn't. And we went to all of these like pitching competitions, and then nobody took us seriously anymore. So as soon as we arrived, it was like, okay, the weirdos are here. So by this time, I was also like seriously broke. So yeah, like instant noodles were like a daily lunch for me, and I couldn't even afford a vacuum cleaner, so I had to use this broom. And then we started this company, so it was like a print-on-demand like clothing store. And I think this is where Woola really started, because this is where we saw the packaging problem. And I got really obsessed with plastic and replacing it. So we started using these reusable boxes to replace bubble wrap, and we made a company out of it. So we called it the No Shit Box, which is maybe not a great name. But still, it wasn't working great. And then I found out about wool. So I read an article by Katrin Gabun, who then became our third co-founder, saying that 90% of wool goes to waste in Estonia. So that like instantly clicked in my head. And like 2 days later, I went to a hackathon and made this prototype with a safety pin. And we won the hackathon. And that was so shocking for me, because I had never won anything before. And once you've been like a failure for such a long time, and then all of a sudden you win something, it's really shocking and you don't know how to act. And then this feeling got like 100 times worse, because we also won the Climathon Global Awards, then TechChill 50 Founders, and then the InnoEnergy Startup of the Year competition. And it was so funny because the reality was like so not glamorous. So this is our factory, and we had rats in the factory. So this is a picture of rat feces. So these were the kinds of problems that we were actually dealing with day to day. And then this photo, I think this is like a day that my life changed forever. So these two people here, Karina Univer and Alejandro Jimenez, they were the first people to say yes to investing into Woola back when everyone else still thought that we were crazy. And then on this day, we were discussing like the terms of the deal. And they were like, yeah, we want to do a convertible note. And I was like, cool, convertible note. But I didn't know what it meant. So I had to like Google it under the table during the meeting. And then we started like gaining some momentum in Estonia. And then we won 2 categories at the Estonian Startup Awards. And that was like so unbelievable. I was so shocked and I was like so honored to receive these awards. But at the same time, I felt like a huge burden on my shoulders. And I saw that people started having like really high expectations of me, because I used to be just like an entrepreneur who wanted to get stuff done. And now all of a sudden I was a CEO. And I was like, okay, this job is like super lonely. And most of the time you have like really no idea what you're doing. So even though these awards were such an honor, they were also like quite difficult to handle. But yeah, so this was the Woola brand in like late 2020, and we realized that we really need to start capitalizing on our branding. So with the help of our first employee, Paula Bernaste, also known as the Queen of Brand by me, we brought the Woola brand to what it is today. And then like in 2021, it was time for us to raise our seed round. So I had like a list of 5 top VCs that would be perfect, and I had some calls with them, and then I realized that VCs really, really hate production. So I ended up having calls with 79 VCs who all said no. And yeah, like this is what it felt like. It felt like shit. And we were also like fully out of money. So I was calling up my friends and other startups and asking like, hey, can you borrow 10,000 euros in case I need to make payroll? So yeah, like I had no idea what my next move would be. But then all of a sudden our luck changed. So through some coincidences, we managed to get in touch with Steve Jurvetson from Future Ventures. And he's definitely the kind of investor who's willing to take risks. So like 3 calls later, we had a term sheet for 2.5 million. And then the day that we signed the papers, we had 2.46 euros on our bank account. So it's still like very unbelievable how, you know, we pulled this off, but we did. And like why I came here today was to say this, that I think there's no one road to success, and just because you fail once doesn't mean that like that's the end. And if you guys are tired of hearing me talk, then there are some energetic drinks by the door, non-alcoholic. I was supposed to say that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Questions? Who has a question? That's a big applause.
Yeah.
Maybe if I ask a question first then, while people think of theirs. So what products do you have in Woola at the moment, and what are you thinking of in the future?
Yeah, I kind of forgot to talk about Woola. So we make a replacement for bubble wrap that's made out of sheep wool, and the product that we have on the market right now are wool envelopes targeted at online stores selling cosmetics. We also have bottle sleeves and then a roll material.
And do you have anything else in future you could tell us about?
I think that's enough for now. Like 3 products are a lot to handle.
Yes. Any questions? There must be a question here.
You are so brave, and I truly admire it.
Thank you.
And who are your customers? Like, you're working with businesses that are buying in large numbers, or you thinking of like print on demand as well?
So we're working with B2B companies, mainly online stores selling cosmetics.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And that is all our founders. Give them all a round of applause. Thank you.